Rock and roll, we are live. Hello, everyone. Pass it over to you there, Libby.
Yeah, sure. So welcome everyone to our August webinar. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Please, if you can let us know in the chat if at any point there are any audio issues. So today we'll be covering the Google SEO leak and what it means for your digital marketing. However, before we kick off, a couple of housekeeping notes. So this webinar will be recorded and shared on our YouTube channel, and of course through our monthly emails. So if you miss anything or want to share this with your colleagues, you'll have that option. We encourage you to engage with us. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can ask them in the chat and we will answer them at the end. So I'd like to take a moment to please introduce everyone. So my name is Olivia. I am the Sales Traffic Controller here at Wonks. We have Joshua Biddle, our Business Development Manager, Nick Rising, our Sales Director, and our presenter for today's webinar is our CEO, Jeff McGregor. So Jeff, over to you.
By watching this is it all good? Yep. So if you are, says my mic is on. Yeah, cool. For some reason that's coming up a bit strange. If you are watching this afterwards, we do have a lot of engagement on our YouTube channel, on our X channel, and through our EDM. So if you do have questions, which undoubtedly will happen, please don't hesitate to get in touch or post on those channels as well. We have had some really awesome feedback throughout the year with these webinars, and we've been improving and getting better. I do apologize. We had some technical difficulties and some staffing changes that took place for July. So for those that were intending to see the July webinar, we're here now. Crazy that we are at the end of August, but there you go. So we did have some housekeeping. I think Olivia went over that, so I will just skip over that. What will we cover today? So we're going to cover the leak in brief. Then I'll talk about what we covered in the last webinar. I'm going to go over some key points for you to be aware of. Some negative ranking factors, some actionable ranking factors, and doing the basics better. And then I'll talk about content. And you'll see that the theme of the webinar today is very much around content. So for those that don't know, the leak occurred in late May. This gentleman, Irfan Azimi, was the man that found it. He's actually quite a humble gentleman. And that's probably played into Google's favor because a more scrupulous individual probably would have manipulated the system and the situation to their benefit. But as he is a kind and humble type individual, he put it out there as to what was going on. And at first, most people didn't believe it because it's such a massive and tectonic situation to have happen in the SEO field. Google has protected its algorithm very, very carefully over the last 25, 30 years because it is, in fact, the bread and butter of the way that the structure in the system works. And it is very, very technically deep and requires thousands of engineers. In fact, I was reading some information about the antitrust case that's going through the works in Europe against Google, and it makes it very difficult for new players to come into the market to compete against a search engine such as Google because of the high cost for employing engineers to get to that technical scope, to pay for the servers, all of that. It is not just simply getting backlinks and adding content to your site anymore. It is multifaceted and ultimately something that is probably outside the realms of most businesses. And I think it's important that you listening understand that nothing in this webinar is going to give you the keys to the kingdom and allow you to automatically get to the top of the search rankings. What I can tell you is that Google, as an advertising company, will let you advertise and get to the top of the search rankings. And that is what Google's corporate mandate is there to do. It is very much to sell you ads. And they are successful in doing so because they have a trusted search engine that keeps users coming back. So when you are searching for something on Google, you're getting relevant results. Now that, as a little segue for a moment, has become slightly eroded in the past. In the last couple of years, there has been some changes to the algorithm to hide information. This was most pronounced during the last US election. It also occurred during COVID. And I will touch on that in terms of sensitive topics being down ranked or hidden from the search results full stop. And so that has caused some consternation, and people are moving to other search engines. A lot of people these days will use DuckDuckGo, but DuckDuckGo is actually powered by Bing, and Bing is owned by Microsoft. So even when you think that you're escaping the monolith that is the big tech companies, Meta uses Bing as well, you're actually still within the ecosystem. So building your website and your content to be indexed by the large tech platforms is important. And so the leak has real relevance to you as a marketer, as a search engine practitioner, because you will be able to glean some information from what came out, but also you'll be able to validate some of the ideas and thoughts that you've historically had about what is actually going on. And there were some myths that Google had tried to say weren't real, but actually has come out as being real. So there was 2,500 pages of information, and I have to tell you that I had to have a strong drink with me while I was going through some of it, because it is quite dense. There was algebra, and I was never great at algebra at school, and so when I was starting to see how the algorithm was put together, I spoke to my wife and said, "Oh, geez, this is probably a bit beyond me, and I do this for a living, so I can completely understand if you have some trouble following along today, and why I've condensed it into this particular webinar today." And it's likely that there'll be more information that will come from this in months to come. Google has now confirmed that it is real. The person that accidentally released it. So what happened was a Google API pushed the algorithm to a GitHub repository. GitHub is used by developers all over the world to store their code, and then a third-party sort of indexing product came in and took that, scraped it, and publicly put it out there. So there was some talk that maybe it wasn't real, but Google had to come to the party and say, yes, it is. So changes will flow from this. Obviously, Google is now on the back foot. They didn't want it getting out, and they can't change things overnight. They're not going to be able to implement changes, nor really should they, because they've built the system for a reason. It is designed to give the most relevant results. And so we wouldn't want there to be instability in that ecosystem. However, there is obviously going to be the what are we going to do about that? And the key thing to recognize is that SEO is always changing. It has done for the entirety of the time that I've been in the industry, so for 15 years now, but that is accelerated in the last 12 months, particularly with the rollout and release of AI. Google has a red notice at the top executive echelons once ChatGPT 3.0 was released, and that is still in effect today, to my understanding, and that is very much because they are concerned about losing that race to OpenAI, and obviously then losing market share, which will then lend itself to losing advertising dollars, which will then lend itself to losing value on the stock market. So expect to see more changes come through. AI overviews are one of the key components of that. So touching on what I discussed in the last webinar, and you can find this on our YouTube channel or on our X channel, and I will go through, I've gone through structured data, particularly in that webinar, and that was around how you can prepare yourself for modern AI SEO indexing. And I do recommend that you go and not only look at that webinar, but also implement some of that structured data, or the structured data features into your site. But what we touched on at the end of the last webinar was a few pieces here. So it's take your time, but do get started, right? That's the key component that I would recommend to anyone, is that you yourself, whether you have a budget that you apply to this and you pay a third-party marketing company, or you are the webmaster, you are the SEO practitioner, look, just dive in, start creating content, but do use the techniques that I described today to get that alignment in the way that you produce the content, you build out your site. So pretty much everyone has a blog or article section on their site these days, but most people always post as admin. In fact, Nicholas and I had a meeting with a prospect yesterday. Their blog section on their site had not been published since 2021. And so from a visual point of view, being 3 years old, not ideal. From an indexing point of view, Google wouldn't like it. I'll touch on that a little later on. But they had posted as the digital marketing business on behalf of the company. Do not post as admin. Do not have posts on your website as the digital marketing company. You must post as either yourself or your organization. The authorship is important. You want to rank for you, your business, and the thought leaders in your business, rather than it be admin and 12001, which is often the case. And I would imagine that for everyone listening today, they will have blog pages on their site that will conform to that standard. Smaller sites are harder to rank well. Most, Kiwi Australian sites and those in the US as well will often have the homepage, the about page, maybe a products page, and on that products page will be all the products. On the services page will be all the services, a contact page, and probably not much else. Do recommend that not only should each of your individual services have individual pages, but you need to extend that beyond just having 3, 4, 5 pages, because Google will not rank a site that is smaller anywhere near as high as a larger site. I won't in this particular webinar, but in other cases, I might go through some of the standout clients that we have. We'll get their permission first, where it is very apparent that they are the leaders in the industry, and they've built that over time because their site has such a depth of content on it. So adding regular content is important. Most businesses that we deal with, again, will have put up the content on their site once, and they posted it once, and then it's never touched again, and it becomes stale. We want to make sure that that isn't the case. You do want to not only produce new content, you want to go back on the existing content and make sure that that is fit for purpose in 2024, 2025, and so on. So make sure you're using Search Console for that. I'll touch on that at the end. Good clicks and bad clicks, again, I'll touch on that at the end. And probably the thing that is most important is that you can actually influence local SEO rankings with above the line advertising. So there is a theatre called the Pump House Theatre in Takapuna, where local plays are put on. A pump house, let's say in Sydney, might otherwise be known as a water pump house, right? And so someone searches for pump house, they're going to see a reticulation service. Whereas if they search for pump house in Takapuna, because so many people will have ignored the first couple of things about pump houses and then found the theatre, Google will start ranking the pump house theatre above all other of the results on the page. So if you have something local to your business, you are more likely to rank for that. One of the big outcomes from the leak was that Google is no longer a discovery engine. Back in the day, and it's a pervasive view that still exists now, back in the day, people used to go to Google to find things, right? They didn't know they were looking for it. And that's where a lot of the gaming of the search engine optimization sort of philosophy came from. But now people come to Google already knowing about the thing that they are looking for. And so what I would recommend, and what a lot of the people that were in the industry talking about the leak would recommend, is that building a brand in the real world is more important than your SEO work. That is to have a sign written vehicle, maybe having stitching on a polo for your brand. It might mean leaving a magnet on the fridge if you're in the trades on the, for the client. It may mean that you are doing traditional advertising such as radio or print or trade shows. The wheel has turned back to where traditional marketing has a place. And I would suggest that people that are expending large amounts of SEO, or large amounts of resourcing on SEO, be that their advertising spend, all that marketing budget, to really consider not only is that the best place for them to spend the money, full stop, But if you are going to spend the money there, is now the right time to be spending it with so much instability around that AI piece in market? So that's what we covered last time. I'm going to get into the leak and start talking about what came out of it. So the key point number one was nav boost or glue. This was mentioned 84 times in the documents, and it uses click signals to measure engagement. Now, this is a very similar process to the way that social networks use to rank content within those networks. So looking at the way that people are actually engaging with the content more so than how it used to be, which was just what the content said and how the page was structured, then with backlinks back to your site. So it's also using Chrome data. Chrome is by far and away the most used browser in the Western world. And because Google owns it, they are able to see what people do once they leave the SERP. So the SERP, I should have written it up here, the SERP, S-E-R-P, is the search engine results page. Effectively, it's what we'd otherwise know as Google. So you would think that everything that is being done with the ranking factor is being done on the search engine. That is correct. If they go then to Chrome, Google has that data as well. And it can tell things like the longest click. So if someone was doing a lot of research, let's imagine that they were looking at a car and they went and had a look at several different manufacturers, what is the longest click that they are looking at? So they might spend 30 seconds with Toyota, they might spend 40 seconds with Hyundai, they might then settle on a minute and a half with Tesla, let's say. Right, so they're using that as a ranking factor. They're also looking at the last good click. So perhaps they're looking for a restaurant, right? And they look at 3 or 4 different restaurants and they go to the final restaurant, a Mexican cantina or something along those lines, and they go, that's what I want. And they stay on that page. That would be deemed a last good click. And that will become a ranking factor for that particular restaurant because it won effectively of all of the different clicks that was happening. Now, of course, that longest click and last click can only occur if they have done that on Chrome and Google understands that information. Of course, Google will know if say it's a Safari browser, if the user leaves the SERP, goes to the website and then jumps back, bounces back, then they'll know that actually that individual obviously didn't find what they were looking for. So one recommendation I'd make here is make sure your content is immediately available to users. What I see a lot of websites do is have a really large, what I'd term hero image on the homepage or on the page that they're going to. So let's imagine that I was going to a page to buy some nice soaps for my mother, buying her a gift. And I see that the website says it's got soaps, and I go to this page and it has a baby in the bath, right? No soap present. Maybe it's at the bottom of the image. What I want to see is the different types of soaps that this company sells. So have you got a gift box? Have you got, this type of soap, that sort of soap? If that's not what I'm seeing immediately and I have to scroll down the page, you're losing a beat. So you want to make sure that your content is present immediately upon the user arriving on the page. They shouldn't have to go and find the content after they've arrived on the page, right? And I think that that's something that a lot of websites don't do well, is they don't give the content immediately. And so that will result in a bad click. The person will go back and look to find the content. You need to make the navigation of the content easy for the user to find. Site authority. So this is an interesting one. Older domains do a lot better in the search engine results page. Now, that's a stink thing to hear if you've just started your business and you've only just bought the domain. It's going to take a decade before your domain is going to have like good authority. And that is why one of the regular things that I hear when talking to business owners is, hey, there is a small business who ranks above us. They're a one-man band. We've got 30 staff. Why? Well, they're a one-man band that's been in business for 15 years and their website has been around that long. Your business changed its name 2 years ago. You bought a whole new domain and you wiped out all your domain authority. So it's really important that when you are considering a brand change, what you're going to do with your domain, right? Let's imagine that you've gone and bought a new domain for one that existed before. Let's say it's a lollipop company, right? And so you're buying lollipop.co.nz and you're going to keep that company going, but it's now changed the ownership from what's called an A record, again, too technical, under your name. Google will quarantine that particular domain because it doesn't know if you're going to keep it as lollipops or you're going to turn it into something different. So it will keep you slightly down the rankings until it knows, yes, in fact, it is going to stay a lollipop site, right? If you're going to wholesale change it from one thing to the other, then Google's going to say, well, you're no longer getting that site authority that you used to have for selling lollipops because now you're a childcare center or you're a whatever it is, right? They're very different things. New domains, as I said earlier, will be placed in a sandbox as well. So if you release a website, and this is a common thing, you build a new website, you're rearing to go, you want that SEO, look, spend the money on ads. Don't spend the money on the SEO. Get the things right, what I'm discussing here, and I'll talk about best practice at the end. You do need to have good content and you do need to build the pages correctly, but don't then immediately go and spend money on SEO. Spend the money on the advertising, get the leads, build your business and grow over time. Do not put it into SEO. Google has said that it's not going to do anything. And PageRank still exists. So for the granddads in the room, which would be me, will remember PageRank from way back in the day. You could actually add a little extension into your browser and it would tell you what the PageRank of a site was. It was a 0 to 10 sort of ranking. Most websites are 0. The likes of CNN, New Zealand Herald, large news sites would have 9 or 10. They would have all of the authority. And you would want to get a back link from a news website to your 0 site because the page rank would flow from the high value site to the lower value site and bring up the rank of the lower site. SEO practitioners focused far too much on that metric, and so Google said that they were taking it away. They took away the visibility of how you could view or I could view what PageRank was, but it still exists. And so it suggests that, yes, in fact, backlinks from high authority websites to low authority websites has real value. I'll talk about digital PR in a moment. Chrome clickstream data, I did mention this before with regard to good clicks, post clicks and the like. So Google is using that information. And so it is looking at other information. If you consider another issue I see with a lot of websites, and Google has been very clear that they downrank businesses on this. If you go to a website and the first thing that happens is a pop-up window that says, sign up to my newsletter, Google doesn't like this. It treats that as spam because in Google's eyes, if you have said, here is my service, here is the product, and you've gone as a user on Google, yes, I want that, and you expect to get content that provides you information, and you immediately get solicited to give the website information, that isn't the intent that you were expecting. If the website meta description said, sign up to this, and you go, yeah, I do want to sign up to it, that's fine. But if you were expecting to see information about the product or the service and then you're being solicited, it doesn't like that. And so what it's measuring is what is happening post that click. So if you on your website have a pop-up that immediately shows up, consider removing it. I can't remember what year that came out, but what you'll see with larger websites is that they actually have a time delay on when that pop-up occurs. So you'll go to the site, you'll get the content for the first 5-10 seconds, then the pop-up occurs. Now, to me, it's still bloody annoying. I don't want to see the pop-up. If I wanted to give you my email address, I'd create a webinar and ask you to sign up and come visit, which is partly why we have these webinars. But in terms of going to a site and expecting me to give you the email address, don't want it. Other larger businesses will give you an inducement. They'll say, if this is the first time you're purchasing from us, you can get $5 off. That's a little bit better. But again, consider the time delay on posting that up. So time on site might also be measured stickability. And that's what I was saying in terms of make sure the content is available to the user as soon as they jump onto that page. As soon as they arrive, here it is, right? Don't have big blocky text that they have to scroll down with. People inherently these days are wanting information immediately. So indexing tiers, this speaks to the way that content is, content freshness. So if you have just posted new content and you've indexed it through Search Console, it's most likely that Google will house this on a flash drive, and it will be able to recall this information immediately. This is the most topical information, likely to be news websites. It's likely to be articles. It's likely to be high rank websites that are producing information continuously. You've also, in again, Western countries, data centers are being built faster than any other thing, it seems. And so you're able to get that information far quicker. However, there is a huge cost to these businesses, to Google, to run these data centers. And so older information is housed on solid state drives. And if you consider when you're going to page 2 or page 3 of Google, it is no longer held on flash. No one's really going to those pages. So it's not going to have it as available in the index to provide to the users. And then the longest long tail dormant content is held on regular hard drives. And if you consider, if anyone ever went to Google Scholar or to pages that has maybe older information, encyclopedia type information that's not Wikipedia, that information is likely to be housed on a hard drive and is something that you actually have to go and search for. You're going to go into page 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of Google and have a really specific long tail search for it. So keeping your content fresh, and that theme keeps coming back. If it's existing content, make sure that you've added some new detail to it. I mean, I don't know. They haven't said exactly what is required, but even if you were to add an and or an ampersand or an image and publish the page, at least in the index, it looks like the page was published on the 28th of August, 2024, not on the 10th of January, 2020. Because then it's going to go from a flash drive to a solid state to a normal. We want it to be on that flash drive the entire time. This one here, can I just make a point also? Thank you to all the people whose images I have borrowed for the purposes of this webinar. Fat Joe, don't know who Fat Joe is. They've given me this lovely EEAT image. I have tried to keep all of the sources because I don't want to be seen to take the images. You can probably tell our kind of images. So thank you to everyone that provided me an image. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Kind of ambiguous as to what this might mean. Lovely long words, and that's why it's got an acronym. But authorship, again, is a key aspect of this metric, and why it is important that the SEO practitioner, the webmaster of your business, the marketer of your business cannot be the only one that's posting the information. If you are the stakeholder, or if in your organization you have a thought leader, someone who's out there that's known in the industry, even if they don't write the content, they should be the one who is given the authorship, because it's them that we're wanting to grow. Because Google looks at that and says, I used the Nadia Lim, I believe, and she's a chef in New Zealand, famous chef in New Zealand. I used her website as being an example of a really well-built website, great structured data. She's known from, I think, MasterChef. She may have won that. She was owner of a large ready-to-eat food kit business. And she's, I think, a nice person, a lovely person, right? So she has all of this content out in the wide world. So when she posts content on her site, Google goes, well, she's got that authority, she's trustworthy, she's got experience and expertise. We're going to rank her content above everyone else. Now, you might have someone in your business who is that person as well. But if that person never is the author of the content, then Google doesn't know, and therefore they're not getting the value of their real world persona, real world expertise, because they haven't been tagged correctly with that authorship. So something to definitely look at. Digital PR is something that we want to really focus on. So PR, as I'm sure we all know, is in the real world hyping your business up. It's definitely an interesting thing. I've done PR for our business, and I'm not really one for being up front and showy, so it wasn't really great for me. It's horses for courses. Digital PR is slightly different in the sense that it isn't necessarily you as the individual that's being promoted. It is about having articles written, again, on those high-ranked websites. So if there is an influencer, I'm loath to use that word because it's normally attributed to social networks. I'm meaning an influencer in the sense of an authority in the industry. There are a number of economists these days who have a high profile. They also have blog sites. And so if they were to write about your site and then link back to you, that is digital PR. There is a lot that you can do. You can pay people to do that. So obviously traditional PR companies will do a lot of digital PR. One of the larger competitors to Wonks in the New Zealand industry, they have recently purchased a business website so that they can resell digital PR to their clients, and that shows that they see the value in that. So it is important, if you are considering paying for PR, that what you're doing is getting those links added with proper anchor text. So anchor text is a hyperlink on, if you're saying, Jeff is handsome, and I want everyone on the internet to know that I'm handsome, I'm not going to hyperlink just Jeff. I want the hyperlink to be Jeff is handsome, and then to go to the page that says that I'm handsome and that I won second prize in a beauty contest because I did my Monopoly game with my children last week. So that's the justification for that. Might not be really the EEAT, but nevertheless, I'm going to suggest that it's true. Making sure the hyperlink, that the anchor text is aligned with the content you're sending the user to, is important. Right? Don't just have it as blah, here's the URL. It has to be hidden behind the hyperlink with the anchor text. Earned, shared, owned, paid. Earned is you've done a really good job. You are an Olympian. Raygun, you're a breakdancing extraordinaire, and she wants to sell breakdancing classes to people across the world. She has earned media. People are talking about her. She wants them to link back to her breakdancing school. Shared media is all the people who are sharing Raygun's videos, hopefully with a nice inflection. Nevertheless, that's being shared. Owned, well, she might own a website where she's saying that she's the breakdancing extraordinaire and she's putting out her content. And paid media is where she would be paying people to talk about her. Probably that would be in that PR piece to say that she wasn't as terrible as she was made out to be. I, of course, have no judgment. I can't breakdance, so, there's that. So digital PR, definitely something for you to be aware of. And of all of the SEO techniques that are available today, is probably the one that has the most validity if you're paying someone else for it. So negative ranking factors are bad clicks. So we touched on this before. So a bad click is when someone clicks from the SERP and then bounces back from the page immediately. Some of the research I did, there's a pogoing back. So that's something that you want to look at. We touched on that. Mismatched page titles and descriptions to what you display on the page will generate bad clicks. So let's imagine that your meta title says, coffee. So we're selling coffee beans, and it says pure roasted coffee beans. And the description is, we are the best in Texas for coffee roasting. By the way, if anyone is listening in Texas, the coffee over there is terrible. There's a real market for good coffee. Australasia does a far better job, nevertheless. So you go through to that page, and it's a page for a coffee machine, right? It's not what I was expecting. I was expecting to see actual coffee beans. Imagine that was what was in the text of the description. So making sure that what you've written in your description matches the content that's actually being seen on the page. A lot of times you'll see that there's a generic description and that when they go to the page, it actually means you've got to navigate down several times in the menu to get what you were looking for, that will be treated as a bad click. And as I said before, asking for a newsletter sign up will generate bad clicks. So will empty content, e.g. big images. Sensitive topics are a negative ranking factor. Now, for most businesses, you are unlikely to be engaging in this type of content. However, political content, sexual content, gender content, content about drugs, or topical community hot button issues. So certainly we can see what's going on in the United Kingdom at the moment. There is a lot of civil unrest. Anyone who's talking about that content will likely see their content down ranked or taken off. January 6th in the US, a lot of that content was taken away. For people that have done searches on multiple tech platforms, not just Google, around Donald Trump's assassination attempt, a lot of that has been removed as well. And so it's important for you to understand that if you are going to be putting up sensitive information, it's likely to harm your site. Even if you're talking about it in an abstract way, or you're referencing it because it's topical for you and it might have an alignment about your business, be very careful about what you say and how you write it, because the last thing you want is to have an action against your site because you've talked about something that Google doesn't like. And what Google doesn't like could fill more than 2,500 pages, unfortunately. They are very active in multiple areas. I mean, I think I might have mentioned, I think it was in our EDM last month, Google removed 17 of our reviews, 5-star reviews. Takes forever to get a 5-star review, really frustrating. If you're a person who watches YouTube, you'll see a lot of people who say, please subscribe to our channel, will also say, YouTube removes a lot of our subscribers. Google comes and does that all the time. There's constant censorship happening online. I wouldn't ever recommend someone be vanilla. A bit of spice in life makes it fun. However, when you're producing content and you're wanting to rank for your business, it's probably best to stick to your knitting. So actionable ranking factors. I talked about authorship before. It's very important that you create content on a regular cycle about the same or similar content that you are involved in. So for us, digital marketing, right? If we're a digital marketer and all of a sudden we start talking about the automotive industry, Google is going to go, well, what's this got to do with your site? It's not likely to rank for that. It's something that businesses that are opening up another division or looking to enter another sector should be aware of when producing new content on a site that's been about one particular topic for a long time. It's going to be harder to rank on that. So it might consider a site specifically targeting that new topic, that new division of your business. Really important to make sure you use the correct HTML tags. So it's not good enough just to say this was written by Jeff. It needs to be an author tag. It needs to have either that you're an individual or an organization, and it needs to be that it has the timestamp that goes with it. This is something that your website most likely will be able to do. Most modern content management systems will allow for this. If it's not already set as a module in your site, do speak to us. We will be able to help you. Speak to Wonks. Or speak to your webmaster and they will be able to help you. But don't go to all the trouble of creating content and not do the last piece of getting the authorship. And that's what I'm talking about, getting the aligned timestamps, not just on the page, but in the structured data. Meta titles and descriptions. So I don't know how many times I've talked about this in the past. I'll show you. Well, I won't actually, because I haven't tested. I don't want to look like an idiot live. If you type site, S-I-T-E, and then colon, and then put in your web address, it will give you all of the titles and descriptions for your site. And you will be able to see whether or not those titles and descriptions align against what you expect your pages to look like. If they don't, then you should go and update it. It's also useful Titles are absolutely used in SEO ranking, descriptions not so much, but where a description is really important is if someone shares the link, the description will show up below. If they post it on a social platform, it'll show the description below. So actually explaining to people what the page is about is going to be important. I'm going to show you a video here. Oops. This is a chap by the name of Matt Cutts. Now, this video has been around forever. This guy is like a Google master. He may have been one of the original Google people. This little section I'm going to show you, it explains how Google works in terms of ranking. So I'll let him do the description.
Can you guys hear that?
No? You can read it on screen. And the link is also. What he's effectively saying is that the association of the two words together is important. The phrase. Content. So if it's not, I've added the URL here. You can search for it. How does Google search work? Effectively, what I'm trying to show there, unfortunately, I'm a bit annoyed that it didn't have the audio. What we will often see with people writing content on their site is that they will say coffee beans. And then they'll say, we are a great coffee company. And vanilla coffee beans. And so what they want to rank for is vanilla coffee beans, right? But they've said coffee beans in the title. They've said coffee in the meta description. And then they've said vanilla coffee beans in the page body. What you want to do is have vanilla coffee beans in the page title, vanilla coffee beans in the description, vanilla coffee beans in the page body. It has to be the same phrasing, because if it's not, as you saw there when he was saying the alignment, it will ignore you in the index. And I see this time and time again in terms of the way that people build their content. They'll use synonyms for words to substitute for what they're wanting to rank for, because as humans, we know the difference. We can see that a phrase, okay, yes, it's vanilla coffee beans and it says coffee beans in it. They're talking about coffee. We know that it's vanilla coffee beans, but the machine, when indexing, doesn't. It's looking to see someone search for vanilla coffee beans. This website kind of talks about vanilla coffee beans, but then they talk about coffee. Then they talk about coffee beans. None of it is in alignment. I'm not going to show that page. Another company has vanilla coffee bean, vanilla coffee bean, vanilla coffee bean all over that single page. Google's going to rank that page. So my recommendation to you is absolutely make sure that if you're using a phrase for your product or service, don't change out the phrase throughout the page. Have it consistent the entire way through. Content. I've sent this before. Make sure that you're going back on existing content. Republish it, add more images, add videos where possible, and look at the layout. Have you got a big hero image? Do you need that big hero image? Might look good to you. You might have paid a couple of $100 to get the person to design it, but maybe you should put the content first and then put the hero image underneath. That would be better for you to get higher ranking. New content, try and parcel out the types of content you generate to different people in your organization. So we do this at the beginning of the month in our management meeting. We will talk about the topics of content that we are going to generate. Each of the managers are assigned a piece of content that they're going to create what's called the purpose and the why, because we want to make sure that what we're writing conforms to that phrasing that we're talking about, I was just talking about. So each of the managers in week 1 will be assigned the content. They'll do a bit of research. The second week, they'll come with their purpose and why. We'll sign off on that in the management meeting. Then they have a week where they are then expected to go and write the content and then produce the video. And then Josh, who's in this call, he will then upload it to YouTube, and then we publish it on our website. So this does several things. Obviously keeps it consistent. So we have a process. Not only every month are we going to produce multiple pieces of content, but there's multiple people within the business who are going to be the ones that produce that content. And then throughout the month, we make sure that we're keeping everyone honest and that that content is produced. And over the last 12 months, we have seen the number of followers on our X account grow. We've seen the number of subscribers to our YouTube channel grow. And we're seeing a lot of people talking to us about being authorities in the industry. So don't put it all on your own shoulders. Look at parceling it out. And if you consider the authorship point that I made, it's very important that you are elevating yourself or the stakeholder who is the thought leader in the industry. Make sure you're publishing it in multiple channels. It's not just about your website. Remember, Google is crawling other websites too. And if people have talked about you and they've linked back to that content, that's important. Doing it on LinkedIn, on Meta, on Instagram, even though Google might not index those particular networks, it is important that you're sharing that content out. And don't use AI to create content. If every single digital marketer used AI to create a page about Google Ads, every single marketer's website is going to be the same content. And Google's going to go, none of you deserve to be ranked because none of you took the time to write the content yourself. Not only is it important that you are a true authority in the industry, it's important for the way that the indexing works, but also it sharpens your own mind. I had to do the research on this particular webinar, and it gave me a lot of insights as to what's going on. It allows me to publish this particular information. So don't take the easy way out and use AI. Do it for yourself. Indexing content. So if you don't otherwise use Google Search Console, make sure you do. It's even more important now with AI overviews becoming mainstream. You can also see if you've got a manual penalty against your site. And if you produce new content, don't just post it on your site. You need to then go and tell Google that it exists by getting it indexed. So if you're not using Search Console at the moment, make sure that you do. It also has a whole bunch of insights in there. And I do recommend that you use the Google search forums for other additional information about what they see to be best in practice for SEO. So that's the wrap up. What we covered was the leak is real, that a real world brand is more important than SEO. And if you are a new business, I would also say that probably put your money into paid advertising, not SEO services. Be an authority in your industry. Present at webinars. Do the basics well. Build your content on your page that is aligned with the correct phrasing. Produce more content. And as all of you in this call today and those that are listening after it has been published, never stop learning. So that's me. Not sure if we have any questions today, Livy. Do we have any questions? Now's the time to ask. No? No, we haven't had any questions come through today. But I'm sure they'll come up after the call, so you can get in touch with us if something comes up. Yeah, feel free to do that. We have a lucky prize draw winner. Before we get to that, Nick, do you have anything?
So thank you everybody for attending today. If you'd like any further information, you can get in touch with us via the website. The next webinar will be on the last Wednesday of September, or of the month as usual at 2 p.m. and that'll be the 25th of September. So once again, registration is quick and easy via the website. So thank you very much. All right, so we can get on to the draw now and see who's won the money. Drum roll, please. Awesome. Tell me the money.
So I've done a random draw, and today's winner is going to be Antonia. So congratulations, Antonia. We'll be in touch with you for that prize.
Awesome.
Nice.
Great work.
Very good.
Fantastic. So look, thank you very much for taking the time to stay in the call. I think there was someone who dropped in and dropped out, but the rest of the audience stayed. So that's fantastic, because it was 50 minutes of pretty dense detail that was put forward. Again, if you are watching this after, please don't hesitate to get in touch. If you do need any help with your digital marketing services, we would love to have a conversation with you. It's no obligation. We have a 30-day notice period. You're not locked into contracts. And I would hope that this last almost hour has shown to you that we know what we're talking about as well. So have a wonderful rest of the day. Spring is almost here. I can smell it in the air. Looking forward to September.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.